I, 32M, just blew up my entire wedding and possibly ruined my now ex-wife's reputation, but I need to know if I went too far. I'm using a throwaway account because this situation has blown up in our social circle and some friends know my main Reddit. For context, I met Chelsea, 29F, 4 years ago at a friend's barbecue. I remember thinking how beautiful she was, but also noticing how sad she seemed. She had just ended a 6-year relationship with her college sweetheart Nick, 31M, 3 months before. According to her, they broke up because he wasn't ready for marriage and she was. She told me they started dating in freshman year of college, moved in together after graduation, and she expected a proposal that never came. After 6 years together, she gave him an ultimatum and he chose to end things instead. I thought she was incredibly brave for knowing what she wanted and not settling. We started talking that evening and really hit it off. She was funny, smart, and seemed very honest about her past. I appreciated that she was upfront about Nick from the beginning. She told me they ended things amicably and remained distant friends since they shared the same friend group. I was fine with this since I'm not the jealous type and I've stayed friends with some of my exes too. Things moved pretty quickly between us. Within 6 months we were practically living together, and after a year we made it official. My family loved her, especially my sister Naomi, 35F. They became incredibly close, like actual sisters. Naomi was going through a rough divorce when I met Chelsea, and Chelsea really helped her through it. The only tension came from Chelsea's mom Linda, 56F, who never fully accepted me from day one. Linda would always make these subtle digs about how Nick was such a nice boy, how he came from such a good family, how she wished things had worked out differently. She'd show me old photos of Chelsea and Nick together, telling stories about their relationship, almost like she was trying to make me feel like an outsider. I ignored it because Chelsea always defended me and said her mom would come around eventually. Last year, I decided to propose. I planned this elaborate proposal with help from Naomi, Chelsea's favorite restaurant, her favorite music, rose petals, the whole thing. She said yes immediately and seemed genuinely happy. We set the date for June 2024 and started planning. Chelsea threw herself into wedding preparations, spending hours with Linda choosing flowers, tasting cakes, picking venues. Everything seemed perfect. The wedding was set for last Saturday. We had 200 guests coming, including people flying in from Europe and Asia. The venue was this beautiful historic mansion with amazing gardens. Chelsea had been stressing about every detail being perfect. The night before, I was having drinks with my groomsmen at our hotel. It was around 10 p.m. when I got a text from Naomi asking to meet urgently. She seemed really upset, so I stepped out. What she told me completely destroyed my world. Apparently Chelsea had been secretly meeting up with Nick for the past year, all through our engagement. Naomi had proof, hundreds of messages, photos, hotel receipts. She found out because she saw them together at a cafe last week, looking very intimate. When Naomi confronted Chelsea about it, Chelsea broke down and confessed everything. The truth was that Chelsea and Nick never really ended things. When he wasn't ready for marriage, they agreed to go on break so she could date other people and he could figure out what he wanted. But they kept seeing each other regularly. Even after she met me, they continued their relationship. Chelsea told Naomi she truly loved me but couldn't let go of Nick either. She saw me as the stable, reliable choice for marriage and a family, but Nick was her soulmate. Naomi showed me recent messages between them where Chelsea was planning their future meetups after the wedding. She told Nick she'd always love him more than me, but needed to marry me for practical reasons. There were intimate photos of them together from just 2 weeks ago at some hotel. They had been meeting at least twice a month throughout our entire relationship. I spent the whole night feeling sick and trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to just call off the wedding immediately, but the logistics seemed impossible. Most guests had already arrived, including elderly relatives who had traveled from overseas. Chelsea's family had spent a fortune on everything. The venue and vendors required full payment anyway. But how could I go through with marrying someone who had been lying to me for our entire relationship? By morning, I made my decision. I would go through with the ceremony but expose everything at the reception. Maybe it was cruel, but I felt she deserved public consequences for public deception. She had been lying not just to me but to all our friends and family who were celebrating our love. Chelsea looked stunning walking down the aisle. She showed no sign that anything was wrong, smiling and crying what I assumed were fake tears. We exchanged vows and rings. I felt sick saying I do but managed to get through it. Then came the reception. I had asked the venue's AV guy to be ready with the screen and projector for my speech. When it was time for the groom's toast, I got up and started normally, thanking everyone for coming. Then I nodded to the AV guy and the messages and photos started playing on the big screen. I announced to everyone that the wedding was off since the bride had been cheating with her ex the entire time. The room erupted in absolute chaos. Chelsea ran out crying. Linda started screaming that I was a monster for humiliating her daughter. Nick was actually there as a guest, the audacity, and tried to punch me but my brother intercepted him. Some guests were crying, others were yelling, many just sat in shocked silence. Chelsea's family is saying I'm cruel and evil for embarrassing her publicly instead of handling it privately. Even some of my own family members think I went too far with the public reveal, saying that while Chelsea was wrong to cheat, my revenge was excessive. But Naomi fully supports me, though she says I could have just called off the wedding quietly. I don't regret exposing the truth. Chelsea and Nick's betrayal involved and affected everyone present. But part of me wonders if I took it too far. So Ida for choosing to reveal everything at the reception instead of canceling earlier? Update 1. The aftermath of the wedding day has been absolute chaos. I needed some time to process everything before posting this update, and honestly, things have only gotten more complicated. For the first few days after the wedding, Chelsea kept calling and texting constantly. I'm talking 50+ calls a day and hundreds of messages. She would switch between begging for forgiveness and accusing me of ruining her life. I blocked her number, so she started emailing from new accounts. When that didn't work, she began showing up at my workplace and apartment building. She would wait in the lobby for hours, crying and causing scenes until security had to remove her. Her messages were all over the place. Sometimes she'd say she made the biggest mistake of her life and would do anything to fix it. Other times she'd blame me for not understanding that she could love two people at once. She even tried to convince me that her relationship with Nick was purely physical and didn't mean anything compared to what we had. As if that made it better. But yesterday, Naomi came to me with more revelations that made everything so much worse. She'd been doing some digging since the wedding, talking to family friends and piecing things together. Turns out Linda, Chelsea's mom, wasn't just aware of the affair, she actively encouraged and facilitated it the entire time. Remember all those mother-daughter shopping trips and spa days when Chelsea was supposedly spending quality time with Linda? They were covers for her meetups with Nick. Linda would even let them use her vacation house in the mountains for their romantic getaways. All those weekends when I thought Chelsea was helping her mom renovate the place, she was actually there with Nick. The worst part is Linda's reason for doing this. Apparently, she never got over her own college boyfriend, James, who happens to be Nick's dad. They dated for 3 years in college and she was convinced he was her soulmate. But James wasn't ready to settle down right after graduation. Linda's parents pressured her to marry Chelsea's dad instead because he had a stable job and came from a good family. Linda has been living vicariously through Chelsea and Nick's relationship this whole time. She saw their situation as a chance to rewrite her own story. She kept pushing Chelsea to keep seeing Nick even after getting engaged to me because she regretted not doing the same thing with James years ago. In her twisted mind, she was protecting her daughter from making the same mistake she did, choosing the safe, stable option over true love. When Naomi told me this, I was so angry I drove straight to Linda's house to confront her. Instead of denying anything, she actually defended herself. She said she was being a good mother by helping Chelsea follow her heart. Then she had the audacity to tell me I should be grateful that Chelsea was willing to marry me at all when her heart belonged to Nick. She said someday I'd understand that you can't fight destiny and true love. This made me start digging deeper into the whole situation. I hired a private investigator who discovered something I never expected. Linda and James have also been meeting secretly over the years, using Chelsea and Nick's relationship as cover. When Chelsea and Nick would meet at the vacation house, sometimes Linda and James would be there too. They've been having an emotional affair for decades while their spouses knew nothing. Chelsea's dad has no idea about any of this. He's always been kind to me and recently reached out to apologize for the wedding disaster. I'm torn about whether to tell him that his wife has been betraying him for years. He doesn't deserve this, but finding out might destroy him. Meanwhile, it turns out Nick was engaged to someone else this entire time. Rachel, 28F, found out everything when videos from the wedding reception started circulating in our social circles. She reached out to thank me for exposing the truth. Apparently Nick had been gaslighting her whenever she suspected something was wrong with him and Chelsea's friendship. But Nick isn't taking any responsibility. Instead, he's trying to paint me as the villain. He's telling mutual friends that I'm mentally unstable and made everything up because I was jealous of his history with Chelsea. Some people actually believe him, saying the proof I showed at the wedding must have been manipulated. 3 days ago, Linda called Naomi claiming Chelsea had attempted suicide and was in the hospital. When Naomi went to check, she discovered it was an exaggeration. Chelsea had taken some sleeping pills but called Linda immediately after. Doctors confirmed it wasn't a serious attempt. Now Linda is spreading rumors that I drove Chelsea to attempt suicide with my cruel public humiliation. The whole situation is taking a toll on everyone. The venue and vendors are threatening to sue over the cancelled reception since we signed contracts. They say the way the wedding ended doesn't void our payment obligations. Linda offered to handle all the costs if I sign an NDA about the whole situation, especially the parts about her and James. I refused because I'm done helping them hide their lies. Chelsea is now staying with her parents and Linda is running a smear campaign against me in their social circle. She's telling everyone I emotionally abused Chelsea throughout our relationship and the cheating story was just my excuse to humiliate her. Some of their family friends have been harassing my parents, saying they raised a monster. I'm documenting everything in case they try to escalate things further. My lawyer advised me to file for a restraining order against Chelsea since she won't stop showing up at my place. I never expected wedding planning to end with legal proceedings, but here we are. Update 2. I wasn't planning to post another update, but the situation has exploded in ways I never imagined. Everything came to a head last week when James, Nick's dad, died suddenly of a heart attack. He was only 58, and apparently the stress of everything coming out contributed to his condition. I didn't plan to attend the funeral, but Chelsea's dad called and asked me to come with him. He said he had suspicions about Linda and James for years but never had proof. He wanted moral support while confronting Linda, and I agreed because he's been one of the few decent people in this mess. At the funeral, James's wife Martha was accepting condolences when someone handed her a box they found while cleaning James's office. It contained hundreds of letters between him and Linda spanning over 30 years. Their emotional affair never stopped after college, they just got better at hiding it. The letters revealed everything. They had been meeting secretly throughout their marriages, even before Chelsea and Nick were born. They used their kids' relationship as cover for their own affair in recent years. There were detailed accounts of their meetups at the vacation house, plans for a future together once their kids were grown, and discussions about how perfect it was that Chelsea and Nick found each other too. Martha started reading the letters right there at the funeral home. Linda tried to stop her, but it was too late. Chelsea's dad also heard everything. He had been standing nearby when Martha started reading them out loud. The scene that followed was awful. Linda couldn't keep it together and broke down completely. She confessed everything, not just about helping Chelsea and Nick, but about her own decades-long relationship with James. Chelsea's dad walked out of the funeral without saying a word. Linda ran after him, but he drove away. He came to my apartment later that night and broke down. He apologized for not seeing what was happening right in front of him for years. Apparently, there were signs: Linda's sudden interest in renovating the vacation house, her constant defense of Nick, her obsession with Chelsea marrying him instead of me. He just never wanted to believe his wife could do this. The truth about Chelsea's suicide attempt also came out during all this. Martha revealed that James had called her that night, worried because Linda was planning to stage a suicide attempt to get sympathy for Chelsea. They figured if people thought Chelsea was suicidal because of me, it would take attention away from the cheating. The whole thing was orchestrated. Chelsea took a few sleeping pills knowing Linda would find her quickly. Chelsea is living with Nick now, but things aren't going well. After James's death, Nick started drinking heavily and Chelsea caught him with multiple women. When she confronted him, he said he never promised her exclusivity. Apparently, he had other women throughout their affair too, she just chose not to see it. Several mutual friends who initially sided with them have reached out to apologize to me. They said Chelsea's been calling them crying about Nick's behavior, finally admitting that she ruined a good marriage for a fantasy. The most unexpected development is that I've started seeing Rachel, Nick's ex-fiancée. We met for coffee to discuss everything and really connected over our shared experience. She understood exactly what I was going through because Nick had gaslighted her the same way Chelsea manipulated me. We started hanging out regularly and things progressed naturally. Chelsea found out about Rachel and me through social media. She showed up at my office having a complete meltdown, screaming that I was only dating Rachel for revenge. Security had to escort her out. She's been telling anyone who'll listen that Rachel and I plotted this together to hurt her and Nick. Maybe she's right about the revenge part. I can't deny that it feels good knowing how much this bothers her. But my feelings for Rachel are genuine. We make each other happy and understand each other in a way no one else can. Linda tried to contact me through my lawyer, offering to pay all the wedding expenses and additional compensation if I agree not to expose her affair with James publicly. Martha is threatening to name Linda in James's obituary as the woman who destroyed their marriage. The whole situation is still messy, but at least the truth is finally out. Update 3: This will be my final update because this chapter of my life is finally closing, though not without one last round of drama. A lot has happened in the past few months, and I think everyone needs to know how this story ends. Chelsea and Nick got married last month in a rushed ceremony in Vegas. No family was invited, not even Linda. They posted about it on social media, calling it a triumph of true love over adversity and how they were always meant to be together. Chelsea even tagged me in the posts, probably trying to show me how happy she was without me. Well, karma had other plans. A week after their wedding, Chelsea caught Nick in their bed with one of her bridesmaids from our wedding, Emma. Turns out Nick and Emma had been hooking up since our wedding day. They got together at the hotel bar after my reception revelations, and never stopped seeing each other. The irony of Chelsea being cheated on by her affair partner was too much even for me. Chelsea had a complete breakdown. She drove to my apartment at 3 a.m., drunk and crying about how she made the biggest mistake of her life. She kept saying she threw away a good man for someone who never really loved her. Rachel was staying over that night, and seeing her there sent Chelsea into a rage. She tried to force her way into my apartment, screaming that Rachel stole her life. We had to call the police to remove her. Linda and Chelsea's dad's divorce has been brutal. She tried to claim half of his business in the settlement, even though it was his before their marriage. When that failed, she started telling people he had been abusive throughout their marriage. Nobody believed her since she'd spent the last 30 years bragging about their perfect marriage. He's been staying with me occasionally when things get too intense with the divorce proceedings. Surprisingly, Chelsea's dad and I have developed a really good relationship through all this. He's become like a father figure to me, even encouraging me to propose to Rachel. He even helped me plan the proposal, a quiet dinner at home with just our closest friends. No grand gestures or public displays this time. Rachel said yes immediately. Chelsea somehow found out about the proposal dinner and tried to crash it. She showed up in her wedding dress from her Vegas wedding, drunk again, saying she left Nick and wanted to try again with me. Security had to escort her out while she screamed about how Rachel and I planned this whole thing to hurt her. Nick has apparently moved in with Emma now. He tried to contact Rachel to warn her about me, saying I was unstable and would do to her what I did to Chelsea. Rachel responded by sending him the screenshots of all his messages to her during his affair with Chelsea. He's stopped bothering us since then. Linda is still defending Chelsea and Nick's actions. She's been telling everyone that Rachel is a homewrecker who broke up Chelsea's marriage to Nick. The fact that Chelsea was having an affair with Nick throughout my relationship with her somehow doesn't count as homewrecking in Linda's mind. She's also still blaming me for overreacting at the wedding and starting this whole mess. Rachel and I are planning a small destination wedding in Bali with just 20 close friends and family. Chelsea's dad will be attending. He's actually walking Rachel down the aisle since her own father passed away years ago. It feels right, given how supportive he's been. Sometimes I think about how differently things could have turned out if I hadn't exposed everything at the wedding. But seeing Chelsea's marriage to Nick implode so spectacularly confirmed that I did the right thing. Rachel and I are happy, building our life together without secrets or lies. Sometimes the worst betrayals really do lead to better things. This whole experience taught me that karma is real, and the truth always comes out eventually. Thanks for following this crazy journey. Time to close this chapter and focus on my future with Rachel.